Okay, so how are we?
And in 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Guide to the Grind, where we cover mindset, money, and momentum. My name is Jeff Eady. As always, joining me today is one of Canada's top mortgage brokers, the cookies to my cream, Mr. Jonathan Tilgert. Jonathan, how are you today?
Outside of the cookies to your cream image, I'm doing phenomenal and obviously very excited to have a good friend of mine and a realtor on here today.
So I don't know if I'm not going to cut the audio, but I just had to press record because the conversation was getting too good and too intense before we pressed record. So I'm really happy today. I actually don't have an intro. Shoot, I didn't even think about this. So let's talk about well, you know what, Jonathan, let's switch things up. Why don't you do the intro? Because you know Andrew even better than I do.
All right, I will do that. Well, we are very happy to have a wonderful guest here, Mr. Andrew McAllistor, who is with Remax in Mississauga. He has been, he can probably tell us how long he's been in real estate for. I don't know that number. I know it's been probably at least 20 years or so.
It is. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we've known each other for, I want to say about probably 9 years, give or take a bit. We met at a networking event years ago. We obviously met through business, have become very good friends since then. I'm very happy. You're someone who I hold very dear in my life. Almost as close as Jeff, although I don't talk to you as often as I do Jeff nowadays. But you're a very close friend of mine. I mean, our kids hang out together every once in a while. And yeah, I'll leave it at that and let you take over just because that's all I got.
Awesome. I mean, this is actually an honor and a pleasure. Jonathan, I've obviously followed your career, and you are right. It is 9 years. It's just about 10. I think it was around this month that we first met 10 years ago when we got involved in networking. And you're right, the relationship has been fantastic, both professionally and personally. I mean, I can't even tell you some of the stories, because those stories that we've done at, fun family events are going to stay fun, family, and alcohol alone. We'll just leave them there. So, Jeff, I mean, like, this is an honor. I mean, what a great program. I mean, I've heard you guys' podcasts. I've seen the materials you guys are putting out. I mean, it's exactly that. It's a guide to the grind. I mean, I am now 25 years doing this. I'm a broker with Remax, and this is not an easy industry. If you want to be successful, you got to grind it out. And as the Remax slogan is, you got to hustle, and you put your hustle in, and you'll get results. I mean, I don't know what else I can talk about except for, of course, years doing this. And I've got an amazing career and some fabulous clients that I'm happy to talk to on a regular basis. But I couldn't have done that without the support of just Jonathan, people like yourself. I mean, I can't even count how many clients you've looked after for me. So thank you.
This is a unique pleasure for us too, because a lot of the guests that we have on here come through booking agencies that we work with, and bringing on somebody that we know on a personal level. And I haven't gotten to drink with you yet, but I have a feeling that we might have a little bit of fun. Yeah. I also noticed you have your name on your shirt there. Shall I ask if it's in your underwear as well?
Only when I go camping.
I was thinking the same thing. No, so you actually run a team of realtors. Is that correct? You're a broker.
No. So I've been mentoring and helping people in the office for a number of years. I did come from a team. Like my history when I first got started, 25 years back, I was on a real estate team for 13 years. The lessons are, I mean, you can't replace them. People complain and say, oh, being a team member or an associate with a large team is not worth it. You give up half your money. And I said, but you have to look at what you build. And you may give away a lot of money, but the experience, the exposure, the processes, you learn so much from what people can offer. So, I took my lessons, I've learned them, and I've now since, grown my career to a level beyond anything I thought I would ever go to. So,
I think that's an important thing to understand, is systems and processes, and giving up a portion of the pie to eat a much larger pie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So do you want to talk about how you first got involved with a team and what your thought process were around that?
Okay, so I jokingly tell everybody that I started real estate when I was 12, but I was not 20 when I got started in the industry. So we'll just leave it there. And if anyone thinks I'm 30, thank you, I love you.
I don't think we have to worry about that.
No, I know the gray hair gets everywhere. So
Sorry,
it,
I
I'm in
had to.
trouble.
This
I've
is
been
why I
called out
love
already.
both of you. It's just fun.
Yeah, I joined the team because I had some guy who came and presented at my high school and went, damn, this looks good. Like I never even looked at
High school.
real estate as an industry to get into. I've always been, told that I'm, quick on my feet and I can strike up a conversation with anybody. And lo and behold, that has worked to my advantage over these years. So I basically walked up to the guy after his presentation and said, can I work for you? And lo and behold, he gave me a job to, deliver flyers, grind. And, I said, okay, got my license. Basically within a year, I was fully licensed and done.
Wow.
And I started selling real estate, before the age of 20. So
You are so freaking lucky that happened. Because I mean, most people don't discover real estate until they're already in their 30s and hate their jobs. And
yeah.
So
No, I wake up every day and love what I do. I am humbled and honored by each client that sends me a review. And when you review them and remember all the fun times, it makes getting up worth it. And I can't measure that. I mean, I've had clients do cartwheels in the middle of the street when you tell them that, they got the house.
like literally.
It literally, it's like, congratulations, they accepted the offer. Next thing you know, they're doing cartwheels down the street. I mean, I've had families just break down into tears of joy and kind of like lunge at me and give me huge hugs, and just say, thank you. I mean, like, how do you measure that? It is such a rewarding career. And I'm happy I found it early. And I'm
No kidding.
really proud to be part of it today.
Yeah,
So-
I was
Go
gonna say
ahead,
that's the part I can agree with you completely, and that's what it really comes down to. And people don't think about this industry is we are really helping people get into a house that their family can grow in.
Yeah.
And that is, as you say, that is the most rewarding part of it all. Seeing how, I mean, really, because a lot of the clients, both you and I work with, because of the way I know you work, you stay in their lives. And you really see how they change. And like you see that, well, they moved in and now you see they've got kids on their way. Now you see the kids growing. And that is the most important part about this industry is you want to look at the long term. And I know you do that. You want to look at the long term of every client, both from a referral standpoint, but also their needs are going to change. You want to stay in their lives because ultimately that becomes so much easier down the road for business. And it comes to have to grind out to find the new client because you're advertising and selling and you're just making the quick sale and I know when you work with somebody, you really take the time to, what are your needs? Let me show you a bunch of places so you can find out what is right for you.
Yeah. And actually this role, we're an advisor. A lot of people keep thinking that this is a sales industry. It's not. The only thing you're selling is you. You sell yourself, you sell your service, but after that, you service the client, you advise the client. You can take the horse to water, but you're never going to force them to drink. You're not like, here, buy this watch because it's going to tell you the best time ever. Well, no, it's about, here's this watch. Do you like the way it looks? No. Okay, well, here's a different watch. How's this one? Do you like the way the hands move? I mean, like it's giving them what the options are and finding what's right for them. I've had clients who have been in their homes for 20 years and they call me every couple of years and they say, hey, we're going to renovate the kitchen. What should we do? Hey, we're going to renovate the bathroom. What should we do? Hey, we're going to put in a pool. Is it worth it? And these are the advice that I've given clients over the years, but it's nice that they continue to call me because that's what our job is. It's advise your client over the years.
What's your answer on whether the pool is worth it or not?
First question comes down as an answer is, how long are you going to be in your house?
There you go.
So yes, it's worth it if you are telling me you're going to be in there for a long time. And a lot of it, I look at it as, what are the age of your children? If your children are quite young, then you can raise them up and teach them what a safe environment is. If your children are 15, are you really going to get good use out of the pool? Yeah, it's going to be intense for the first, let's say 5 years, but then after that, the pool may not be worth it.
And does that make it harder to resell the home?
So it limits your buyers. It definitely does increase your value, but I have had clients hands down say, I will not look at a house that has a pool. So it does limit your buyers, even though a pool can be filled in, and there's always people looking to, put clean fill somewhere, so it's not that expensive to get rid of a pool.
So Andrew, one of the things that Jonathan and I have been really concentrating on is the state of the market.
The current situation. Yes.
Yeah. And this is why I had to start the recording before the conversation kept happening. You guys started getting into some numbers, and I completely go blank when numbers come out, just so you know, if I glaze over. But do you want to talk about, you were just saying, if interest rates are rising and you're waiting for markets to come back down, do you want to explain a little bit about what you guys were talking about before we pressed record?
All right. I guess to say first, everyone thinks that there is the sky falling. They see and hear doom and gloom. If anyone's interested, you may have heard of a small magazine called McLean's Magazine, and they have been reporting the crash of the real estate market for probably 15 years, almost monthly, but definitely more than once a year. And they say it's a bubble. Well, I don't see a crash coming forward. A crash to me would be a 50 to 60% reduction to where we're at values today. If you look at just raw percentages, what do we call it when the market's been going up for the last, even 5 years, a minimum, if not an average in our local GTA market here of 15%, where the last 2 years, our market's gone up in excess of 20 each year. So what do we call that? So, I mean, right now, is there a correction? For sure, there's a correction. But if we look at year over year statistics, we are still above July 2021 to July 2022 today. We're still up 8% increase. So really, where's our crash? We haven't even come down to last year's values yet. So are things going to continue to drop? I believe so, but it's all based on affordability. I mean, what I disagree with is how the Bank of Canada has increased their rates. Am I in agreement with rates going up? Yes, I am. Am I understanding of why we have inflation and it's out of control and we got to temper it? Yes, increase inflation, because it's really the only tool Bank of Canada has. So they increase the rates, and then everyone's affordability drops. People's income didn't go up. So how are they going to be able to pay for the mortgage? So if you're looking for a crash to happen and you're waiting for yourself to buy a property, my first question to you is, are you renting? What's your current living environment? Because houses are still selling. I'm still seeing today houses sell in multiple offers. So the question is there a crash or is there not? And my answer to you is no. There is a correction. There's an adjustment right now, but it's more of an adjustment on people's expectations more than the market crashing and being a big, quick 50% drop.
This is the interesting thing about it, is understanding that markets are dictated purely by psychology, and mass psychology at that. The stock market crashes when people start believing that it's going to crash. Just like the real estate market, people stopped buying for the last month and a half, 2 months, because they believe that it's going to crash. But I haven't seen anybody lose their homes. I haven't seen anybody losing value on their homes. I've seen some homes sit on the market longer than they would have a couple of months ago, but by no means are they going past the expected time for a normal market to be on the market.
Well, the big thing here, and this is what people have to remember, is it comes down to what are the fundamentals saying? And the fundamentals are there people that need a place to live? Because if there's people that need a place to live, yes, markets may come down a little bit, as quite frankly, I think they needed to, because the appreciation that was happening in real estate and the frenzy that was happening on places. I mean, when it was pretty much, okay, I'm going to show you this house at 1 o'clock. You got to make a decision by 1:15, otherwise it's going to be off the market, which was quite frankly what was happening with a lot of places. That is not sustainable. And that was fueled by a number of things, one of which was the fact we had these ridiculously low interest rates.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And let's call it what it was. That was absolute emergency. I mean, we've been in emergency interest rate since 2008 with the financial crisis, which is rates below 4%. And with the last 2 years, we got into what I call ridiculously low interest rates with pandemic frenzy.
Yeah.
And as a result, people just, I mean, it's one of those that in some ways doesn't make sense to me, because with the pandemic, there were a lot of people out of work, and yet real estate was going up in some areas 40, 50% year over year. Going, people are losing jobs, making less money, yet your real estate's doing that. So that had to correct itself. And I think that's areas that have seen that may be where we see a little more of a correction, in my opinion.
I think you're right. Keep in mind, there's a demand, and you mentioned it right there, is that you've got pre-pandemic, before the world started to open back up in August 2020, I remember the federal government standing up and saying, we've already approved 400,000 people coming to Canada. And it's once the borders are opened back up, these people are coming. So I think people's fear is FOMO, fear of missing out. And they want to buy a property before they can't. There was a report that was recently released by CMHC talking about our current housing, and I will use the word crisis because frankly, we have been in this, and I've seen it for over 10 years of my career, that I shake my head with how all levels of government are dealing with the housing scenario. And again, either they're not talking to realtors, or they're not talking to realtors that have, good things to say, but I mean, I'm not saying I can correct the problem, but what I can say is sprawling out the way a local city like Mississauga has done, maybe necessarily has not been the greatest thing that's happened, because now what they're trying to do is accumulate some land and intensify it, like make it super, super, super tight. Well, now that's an extreme. You don't want to have great backyards and beautiful park neighborhoods to now a very intense neighborhood where it's so busy you can't even take your car through the area. Where you look at Toronto, I disagree with them building these fantastic 400 square foot condos. Like, what is that for? So they completely segregate society and make it so only one human being can live. Well, we have families, people. People need a space to grow. At the very least, for goodness sakes, give me a decent sized balcony if you're going to put everybody into a condo. I'm fortunate to say I own an investment property where my condo is 1,000 square foot. I mean, how many people have a 1,000 square foot condo these days? Like, those are unheard of.
Yeah.
So it's what we need is people to build the right product for the demand coming in. But unfortunately, the governments have made it so expensive for builders, and the time is unreal. It takes way too long for builders to go through the process, for cities and regions to change the land, and for services like schools, parks, and transportation to come in. And until you can fix that, CMHC's report came out and said Canada is in a deficit of 3.5 million houses across Canada. And they said the two cities that need it the most are Toronto and Vancouver, need houses. And they said they make up over 80% of that demand. Two cities. Like, we need 3.5 million houses. So, I mean, if people think that we're in a crash, no, we're in a small correction. We have over 400,000 people coming to Canada annually. I understand from some reports recently that there are already approved 450,000 coming total in 2022. And there's already that number registered and approved for 2023.
I believe 2.5 million by 2025 is the target number.
There you go. So if we're already in a housing deficit of 3.5 million homes, and we have another 2 million people coming, where are we putting them?
Yeah, well, that was like, just going back. I mean, a stat that I recently read was that of all the G8 countries, Canada has the lowest number of houses per capita.
Yeah. And this isn't to get into politics, but that's where looking at the actual government's plan of what's going on, they're not, they're saying, hey, let's do one thing, but not compensating for it on the other side, because exactly what you said, that the red tape between municipal and provincial governments and the federal government, it's like one hand's not talking to the other. No. Hey, come on in, but we're going to build you igloos to stay in for the next few years.
And to me, it's not hard to do this. I can show you 15 years of statistics that show you that in GTA, because again, this is where my local market is, you've got 40% of new immigrants. The number is probably a little bit higher than that, but I can show you statistics on basically average for the last 15 years. 40% of new immigrants coming in to Canada land in GTA. Not talking Ontario.
Yep.
We're talking just
GTA.
GTA.
Yeah.
So
Well,
out of a
I'm
million
only-
people, that's 400,000.
I'm only an hour and a half outside the GTA, and the amount of minorities that live out here are very, very, very small. And it's amazing because there's a lot of people coming in, and it's only an hour and a half away. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like Toronto is getting any better as far as living
No.
living standards. I mean, I've been there the last couple of weeks. I moved out 2 years ago. When the pandemic hit, I said, screw it, I'm moving back to my hometown. And it's been the best choice ever because, man, traffic out here, you might get behind a tractor or wait for a cow to cross the road, but that's about it. But going in now and seeing now that everyone's has returned to the office, the traffic density is just so much more. Even my old neighborhood, Cabbagetown, in a neighborhood essence of traffic, it was so much busier, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
But Toronto can't expand. They've got the green belt around them, unless they change that, which seems to be one of those rules you can bend.
Yeah. But yeah, there is some conversation that's been coming up about the green belt and how the land is to be released. I don't want to go too political on this, but it is challenging. And I guess maybe the best advice that I can say to every viewer and listener here is get involved, be educated. I was at a presentation about a year ago that the region of Peel put on. And what's really nice is the region of Peel looks after 3 cities. So you've got, Mississauga to the south, Brampton in the middle, and Caledon to the north. My biggest disappointment is that this report that they put on was a 30-year plan that the region is proposing and submitting basically to the 3 cities, saying this is how we recommend you need to intensify, develop, and create. So create mean your transportation, your community centers, and how the land that you have. So in other words, Caledon, who has the most land, how their farmlands can now switch from being agricultural over to residential, and the rough timing on that. So where I say my biggest disappointment, there wasn't one suggestion of a unified transportation plan, whether it be under or over the ground, to join all 3 cities. And if you think population, Mississauga itself is, I believe, we're over 1 million by itself.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
sorry,
ahead,
I was
JT.
just gonna say, I mean, a couple things. So back to Mississauga, because I mean, Andrew, both you and I grew up in Mississauga and
Yes.
saw its transformation and saw it go from being primarily farm fields to what it is today.
Yep.
And the reality is, if they had a plan back then, if they had a plan back 30 years ago, they could have built phenomenal infrastructure to give it a phenomenal transportation system. But I agree with you. That's the biggest thing that is needed. And whatever level of governments need to get involved, that's what's needed is transit to make it easier to get around. Because I know Mississauga now, you get, especially northern Mississauga, you get north of Burnhamthorpe, it's gridlock.
Well, it's I heard a guy talking about it. He's a statistician that worked for one of the major mortgage investment companies that we won't mention the name of, and he was saying, he was talking about a lot of stuff going up in the Barrie area and how transit was desperately needed, because putting another lane on a road is kind of like putting another loop on your, or another notch on your belt, so that you can, to deal with weight loss, so you can expand your belt. It's not exactly going to fix the problem. And this is the challenge. When Mel Lashman was mayor of Toronto, he talked about the mega city. And we haven't heard that term in a long, long time. But he was thinking, hey, you know what? This is going to expand. We need to be putting transit all the way from, and thankfully, like Go does now, go to Niagara Falls on a regular basis. But Niagara Falls to at least Oshawa, Pickering area is all one town now. All these municipalities have come together, and they all need to start talking as a coalition, because it's going to get out of hand within our lifetime. Now, I'm happy about the green belt out here, kind of segregating us from Hamilton and all that stuff, but it's only a matter of time before we see it out here, and there's no public transit out here.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you say that, and I think we're actually going to see. I don't know if you saw the proposed Elon Musk's what's the tunnel?
His loop.
Yes, the Hyperloop. He proposed a Hyperloop between Montreal and Toronto, where it would take I think it's 90 minutes or less to get between Toronto and Montreal. And it'd be really interesting to see transit of that capacity and how much that would affect real estate. Like Montreal, as far as I know, has been pretty stagnant for a long time because.
Oh no, Montreal is on fire.
Is it?
Yeah.
I know nothing about Quebec now, but a few years ago it was dead.
Yes, it's all on affordability. So as you said, 2 years ago, you moved out back to the hometown because your responsibility to be down in the core and your living expenses to be in the core were just too high. Just didn't need to be there. Mm-hmm. So why don't you go to where it's more affordable and you can still, operate at a better capacity and have more enjoyment. Yeah. Well, Montreal, you should see what $300,000 still gets you.
Really?
So yeah, it's on fire. And Ottawa has seen greater returns than what even the GTA has seen in the last 2 years. So
I know one of the mix that I've dealt with a fair amount. They only invest in Ottawa. They're conservative but Ottawa has been just steady for a long time. Yeah. It's one of the best markets to invest in. So you were talking about, this is where the numbers you two started nerding out, the difference between waiting right now to see if the market crashes and, what if we get up to 5% interest rates? And that's as much of the numbers that I actually caught. You guys started going back and forth. So you want to explain that concept a little bit, Andrew?
All right. So I've got Jonathan, numbers guy, and he's the mortgage professional here. So he can definitely make sure that we're not making mistakes on our numbers here. But basically, in short, it comes down to all affordability. If your income, is X amount of money and you've got, $1,000, obviously the number is not correct. Jonathan will give you the right number. And that's what you have to spend on a mortgage. And you're going, okay, well, I'm going to wait until the mortgage pricing comes down. So let me just, in other words, mortgage pricing comes down, meaning your purchasing of the property comes down. So it makes it more affordable. That's the crash people are hoping for. Well, what's affecting this crash that we're talking about is interest rates. And right now we're slightly, confirm with me if we can, Jonathan, is it 5.5, somewhere in that range is the current 5-year?
Yeah, current 5-year is, I've seen a couple just below 5, but call it probably around 5 to 5.25 in that range.
Okay. So there's your current 5-year mortgage. So now the question, if the mortgage rates were to jump up, 1% or 2%, which, let's be fair. I mean, my first mortgage, over 20 years ago was, 6.5, almost 7%. And back then that was a great deal. So you kind of roll with it. But you look at what the interest rates need to be for the same purchase price. So if you have a mortgage of, Jonathan, let's just go with say what, $500,000 or $600,000. So if it's $600,000 today as a mortgage amount with a 5% rate, what would your cost be? And then compare that to, for the same cost at a 7% rate, what does that mortgage number have to be?
Yeah, so that's your numbers, because this is what we were going through before. Your numbers are between the 5 to 7% range. That basically drops your mortgage from 6, similar carrying cost from 6 to about 500,000. So
$100,000 drop. Right? Sorry, do the math on that. When you talk percentages for a second, if we're still up 8% from what we were, a year ago, year over year, we have to drop by, I gotta grab my calculator, but it's dancing around 15% reduction.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You think about how long it's taken us to drop, this amount. Do we have 15% more to drop? Potentially. But when you hear that we've got, 2.5 million people coming to Canada over the next 2-3 years.
And we know, as you say, about 40% are coming to the GTA, about probably 50% coming to Ontario as a whole.
Yeah.
Then ultimately while we currently have a housing shortage.
Yeah.
it doesn't leave a lot of room for things to fall. I mean, will they? What I'm really hoping comes out of this is that we get a more stable market. And by that, I just mean, and I think we've started stabilizing where, you know what, people can actually go in and have conditions when they're purchasing to make sure they get their financing, and they're not just going in saying, hey, listen, here's my price, and I'll meet everything else you want. There's my price.
All conditions waived. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was unreal. Like people were going in and saying, you're asking 100,000. Okay, I'm going to give you 150,000. And yes, they were going like 50% over the price, of what people were asking. And they were saying, I will name my unborn child after you. It was crazy. And I'm happy to be able to start getting an industry back involved, because I have loved and learned so much from these people for years. But home inspectors have been beaten up for the last 2 years, but they are a crucial part of the house purchasing experience. It's not to go and renegotiate and say, oh, I found a scratch in the wall, I want 10 grand off the price. No, it's for you as a homeowner to know that's where the water shut off is. So when you go away on vacation for a week, here's what you turn off. It's you have a jack of all trades, a professional in their right to teach you about your home. And it is a phenomenal experience. And I love that opportunity. But yes, surprises do come up, but it gives you at least a timeline to know how and when to deal with surprises in a house. So yeah, having a home inspection, I'm so looking forward to that.
And back to the home inspector, and I just know as well from experience, it's they'll go through and show you, hey, here's potential problems, but also here are small things you can do that will cost you $50 a year, but will save you $10,000 in repair 3 years from now.
You got it. So hopefully all that math makes sense, because I mean, when you're dealing with, interest rates going up, well, that makes houses more affordable, but it doesn't when you look at the grand scheme of things, because the interest rates, I think, are going up faster than the market is coming down. And the other thing to factor is where are you living right now? So if you're renting every single day, month and year, you're living in that rental, that's money gone. Where if you get a lower interest rate, you may pay a higher price for the house today, but you're building equity quicker with a lower interest rate.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I mean, people live in this weird comparative moment where they look at, people getting less than 1% mortgages 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but they don't remember people in the 80s paying 18, 19% on their mortgages.
Go ask your parents.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that led to a market crash in the early 90s and everything, it got crazy. And this is, again, we're getting with the politics a little bit, but the Bank of Canada, they really don't have their finger on the pulse when it comes to the real estate market itself. They really need mortgage brokers and realtors in there to help them understand when they should shut off the interest rates and when they should be raising, because they always seem to be 6 months to a year behind what the market's doing for some reason. And I mean, right now we're seeing these market rates, or these rates increases should have happened a year ago. When, out in Niagara, Dunnville, Ontario, where I live, the market jumped 40% in 1 month last year, March of last year, 40%. That is not sustainable. And that was predictable. You could have seen that coming. They had a year and a half of pandemic, or a year and a bit of pandemic, to understand, hey, everybody's moving out of the cities and they're moving out into the country. Why don't we kind of try and cool this a little bit? I get they were trying to help people with their current mortgages, but all it did was create this frenzy. It was an absolute feeding frenzy. You're a listing agent, am I correct?
So I'm a bit of both. If I look at all my statistics, I'm almost 50-50. Okay. I probably do more listings than I do buyers. But my business at this point is basically it's all past clients and referral business.
Yeah.
So the buyers
you're a listing agent, you're God.
Oh, stop.
I've seen some great skits about people calling up the listing agent, be like, hey, I'm really sorry, I don't want to bother you, I know I shouldn't have called you, but
Yeah, over the last 2 years, if you had a listing, you are right. I've never enjoyed that sort of attitude, because there are a lot of realtors in this industry that think their poop doesn't smell.
Oh, you can say shit.
Okay, good.
Their shit don't stink. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So they think just because they have a listing, it gives them the right to be a jerk. And the unfortunate thing is, this industry is filled with a lot of young people and people who have very, very good memories. So now when you need them, guess what?
Well, that's the thing. I work from time to time in the film business, and I ran into a guy the other day. I'm now at a position where I would be his boss. We were working on the same show, and a couple of years ago, I was, 2 or 3 levels below him. Thankfully, he was a great guy, and he's become a really good friend. But you just never know. And in whatever industry you're in, the hierarchy that's going to exist 5 to 10 years from now.
Yes.
So treat everybody nice on the way up, because there may be a way down, and you wouldn't mind a hand up at some point if you
Yeah.
It's insane. I've never understood why people want to treat people like crap in business.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. You're not going to have a sustainable career that way. So let me ask you, what would you tell a client that came to you right now saying they want to buy a house?
Talk to a mortgage broker immediately.
Wow, I couldn't have set that up any better.
So the main reason why is interest rates can be locked in and held for 120 days. So that gives you 4 months of control.
Mhm.
If you're afraid of the interest rates going up, which again, you spoke about Bank of Canada and them being 6 months behind, I really don't understand process. To me, if you really want to shock the market, don't step on somebody's toes. Like, that's all they did. They just stepped on their toe. If you want to shock the market, chop their head off at the beginning, like really give it to them. So, back in March when the interest rates went up, they went up, oh, here's 25% or whatever, a quarter point, whatever,
25 basis points, yeah.
Then they went and they punched you in the gut and they gave you 2 hits of 0.5.
Mhm.
So every single month. And now they give you a hit of 0.75. I'm going, come on, guys. How about we reverse this? Put its head on its toes here for a second and go 75, like 0.75 right at the beginning. And everyone goes, whoa.
Yep.
And we wouldn't have seen the slow decline to now almost the halt, because where we're coming to this halt right now is people's fear of what's happening tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to a mortgage broker, get in control, and have 4 months to sit and wait. But at least you have today's lower interest rate today, where most house closings are 60 days, 2 months. So that could give you a 1 month to sit on your, backside while you wait for people to settle out the market, 2 months to buy, or frankly, 1 month to even go looking, right?
Yep.
And then 2 months to close. So that gives you your 4 months nice comfortably. And right now, this is a good time to do it. Buying a house in the summer allows you to see a lot of things. You're not worried about things being covered with snow. So it's this is the time. Get started.
As you say, they can get out. They can actually see what the neighborhood's like, because you'll see kids playing. You'll see those types of things.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you go out and there's questionable characters all around the house going, all right, because this is the time when people are outdoors.
Yeah. And a house should yes, a house is an investment. But it's more of an investment of the fact that you could rent something and then throw away, $2,000 a month for the next 25 years, or you could go and invest into your home.
Yeah.
Paint the kitchen the color that you want to have it. Renovate the toilet so you have those automatic toilet seats that go down after you're done using it, So like these are the kind of things you'll invest into your home. So, Jeff, you've got one of those?
No, sorry, that's just an odd addition I wouldn't have thought of. I think retile, put in a new shower. No. I want a seat that lifts and closes on its own.
Why not? Right? We all need perks in life, right? So
that's awesome.
So when you invest into your house, you make it a home. And so you look at it as the investment of, you need a roof over your head. But right now, with a declining market, this gives a buyer the control to, Jonathan, you said it best, research the neighborhood, look, see where the kids are. Is this where I want to see myself? And yes, I do have clients that, want to be in diversified neighborhoods, but they don't want to be in one community oriented neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, Canada's a melting pot and I love it. You know, I love the variety of food and I love the cultures and the communities that we have from around the world. But I don't want to be in a neighborhood that's just, you know, people who wear red shirts like me. I mean, that's not fun.
It's no longer a melting pot. It's now a cultural mosaic.
I love that. Thank you.
And back to Jeff, you just said the words earlier. You said out your way, there's a lack of minority. I just want to bring up one point, and that is in the GTA, Andrew and I are actually the minority. And I just mean it from the standpoint of we were born in the GTA and we still live in the GTA.
There's nobody that does.
I've been to many parties where, okay, there's 40 people here. How many people are actually born here? 2 of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I bartended back in the day, and that was my first line with people was, "Hey, hi, where are you from?" And whenever somebody would say Toronto, I'd be like, "Whoa, nobody's actually from Toronto." And just to keep that the same, you guys are from Mississauga, so you're not from Toronto.
No.
I was actually born in Toronto, though.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My first 6 years of my life, I actually lived in Etobicoke.
That's not Toronto. That's Etobicoke.
It is Toronto. It's part of Toronto. It's part of the city of Toronto now.
Yeah, well, I was technically born in Oakville, but my dad is probably the worst real estate client anybody would want because he's still in the same house that my parents purchased before I was born. So I'm like,
got it for like 30 grand back in the day.
Not far off.
Yeah, it's crazy. The place I used to rent in Cabbagetown, I remember my landlord sold it a few years ago, but he told me he got it for 30 grand back in the 70s, right downtown in Cabbagetown, and I'd be shocked if he didn't get $1.5 million for it.
That sounds low.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Fair. Well, actually, you know what? Saying that, there was one around the corner from there. It was completely gutted, sold for 1.5. So, like it was gutted. It was just brick and beam inside. There was nothing else.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it.
No floors, no walls, no nothing. It was crazy. But I mean, again, we've seen this over the last few years, especially since about, I'd say 2015. Like we had the correction in 2017 for about like a month and a half. Yeah, like it's going to happen. It's the way that a market happens. But exactly what you said, JT, we need a stabilization. There needs to be some sanity in the way that things are done, because I'm sure there's people who bought houses over the last couple of years that found some really crappy surprises once they got in there, and that can decimate a family financially. Yeah. If you need a new roof right off the bat and you didn't notice that when you bought it and you just waived all conditions, well, guess what? Now you're 40-50 grand in debt. Same as the foundation's cracked or you got leaks. Like you just don't know these things, and people are going, standing at the door. I helped my aunt sell her house last summer and it was insane. She, the market it was steady there, but it just kind of picked up as she listed her house, and I think she got 140 over asking.
Wow.
She was asking 400 grand. And now I get it. The listing agent, 400 grand is a marketing tool. I understand for the area. I figured she'd get 500 easy, but yeah, she ended up like over 500. It was insane. And it happened fast. Like it didn't used to be unusual for a market to be, or for a house to be on the market for 30 days. Now, if a house is on the market for 30 days, people are like, what's wrong with the house?
Okay. Today, no. But 2 months ago, yes. So today you're right, and I'm actually quite happy to have it back to a normal market. I mean, when I work with sellers, I've always budgeted to say, here's the process that we're going to go through for the next 30 days, and it's going to be get it on the market. Let's get some open houses, 2 of them if we can in the next 30 days. So at least we have the immediate first weekend, always the best impact. Get it early. Second week, maybe let it cool down. Third week, do another open house. But then what are we doing on that third week? We're talking about price. Because if your house isn't sold after 2 weeks, well, then the question is, why not? So if the market is stable, if we've got good feedback, if we've got people saying, it's a good house, but we're seeing some other things, well, that's, in translation for your house is too much money.
Yep.
So you adjust the price, you hit another open house, and realistically, you can get a house sold in 30 days. But that's in a more balanced market. Right now, we have a lot of uncertainty, and I think many agents are going to agree with me today, of course, being, we'll timestamp it here, Jeff. So this is July 12th, 2022.
I wouldn't have known that.
Now we know. So today, the market is maybe 1 or 2 showings a week. So that's not a stable market. There's just a lot of people that are, afraid to look at homes. I'm working with a young buyer right now who, they only want to see houses on the weekend. Well, you couldn't have done that a year ago, or geez, even 2 months ago, where it's awesome. I showed them houses last week. I think out of the 5 houses we saw, 1 is sold. So houses are still selling. But the point is, if they want to go back and see it for the second time, a week later they can. Yeah. So, there is an advantage to be a buyer today. So.
Oh, absolutely. It's I would say a small window of a buyer's market we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, when's the last time you remember seeing a buyer's market?
So remember, I started 1997, so many years ago. I'm honestly trying to think, because in 2008, when we saw a correction there, it was a blip. It wasn't even a full year. 2017, with the runaway freight train that we had up until mid-April, it corrected, but houses were still selling. By the end of the year, sure, some values came down. I'm trying to think, like a true buyer's market. I've mostly experienced, obviously insane increasing markets, but more balanced, where having a house for 2, 3 weeks or 4 weeks on the market is, to me, normal. That would be fine. And I'll have some agents that have been in the business for 5 years or less that would probably be screaming at this podcast right now. And it's like, well, yeah, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, no, we didn't have, first, the internet barely came into power in the 90s. Like, please, people, pay attention. I got started in the industry when we sold houses with a book. So that was a lot of fun. We'd get together at my office and I'd show you the book, because you couldn't take that book out of the office, because then someone else wouldn't know what houses were for sale. It was, totally archaic. But, houses being on the market for a few weeks is totally normal. Our job as realtors is just to show you what the options are.
That's that's a whole bigger question about understanding the differences between selling offline and online. Like that's got to be such a massive advantage for you to be able just to put it up on the MLS. Like that you reach how many 80,000 agents in the GTA in seconds.
So the answer is yes and no. I mean, if for some of the viewers on this here, we actually have 2 real estate boards that pretty well cover all of Ontario. Okay. Yes, there are some other. I think if I'm right, I think we have 30. I think the total is like 30 or 30. It's under 35 real estate boards across all of Ontario. There's an amalgamation of boards that's, I think, 22 or 23 boards that got together that encompasses literally all of Southern Ontario, minus Toronto. Ottawa is joining, so they're not part of it yet, but they are joining. And Windsor is not part of it. They're still a closed board, but pretty well anything from Ottawa to Windsor and in between, remove Toronto, is a real estate board. But you are right. You have eyeballs of 50, 60,000 eyeballs from the Toronto board, plus another 25,000 eyeballs who are part of the what they call Ortis or ITSO real estate board.
Wow, I'm actually happy when I throw a number out there and it's not wrong.
No, you did really well.
But I know the biggest thing that keeps changing, and this is, I mean, probably way more in my industry, I see it, but probably way more so in your industry, is you come in and your clients, it's not like, as you say, you got the book and what's houses for sale. The clients come in and say, I want to look at this place, and this place. When can we do it?
Yes. I love those clients. At the same time, I want to strangle them. So what I do is I usually let my clients for a showing round or 2. And you don't want to see more than, say, 5 or 6 houses, because then everything kind of turns into mush in your head if you seriously are looking at homes. So you see about 5 or 6 houses, and I let my clients kind of drive the bus for a little bit, and then I go, my turn. Because you don't, like, you look at the pictures, you look at the floor plans, and that's actually beautiful technology today. Holy smokes. I watched the beginning of the 3D virtual 360 tour, where before people, I mean, remember, cell phones didn't have cameras. Okay, so I watched the everyone take their little point and click, and you try to take a picture of the room, and all you'd get is the kitchen sink, because that's how wide angle the thing was, right? So to them,
I love the realtor pictures in the bathroom where it's like this.
Oh yes, yes.
Let me get out of the way of the camera.
And the people who don't really try, at least dress up. Like, get out of your soft pants. Like some of these people, I mean, just.
I love it.
Yeah.
The 360, this is interesting because this just drew a comparison for me, because I work in the film industry part-time and I do location scouting and location managing. Yeah. And really, it's very, very similar to what you're saying right now. Like, there's a site that I go to where I look at all of the different, well, not all of them, but a bunch of different locations. And if I'm looking for something specific, I want to show my my teammates, I want to show them 3 to 5 selections saying what they want. And if they don't like it out of there, then I have to go find what I think they need. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of comparison in the 360 cameras, like the 3D where you can actually walk through a building now. That's insane to me, because you get the feel. Like, it's not just angles. Like, you don't have to figure out which way is north, south, east, and west. You've got it there, and you don't physically need to go there anymore.
There still is a feeling, like when you walk through the house, even though you've seen all the photos and they're professionally done, and truthfully, there are photographers that do such a great job, that you don't want something over processed so it looks bad. You want it to be, this is truly what the place looks like with a little enhancement, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to, depending on the time of day, it could be a little darker than other times.
I wish people would do that in their dating profiles.
Yes.
I want to see your 4 headlines. Sorry.
No doubt. Basically, you're not dating a house. You are getting married to a house here.
Fair.
So you want to make sure you love it. But I have had clients, you walk in the front door and they don't need to see anything else. They stand right there and they go, "This is my house." And it's a feeling. It's a feeling you get. And you can't get that from a picture. So even though people think they know what they want after they see the home, they don't. They have to get inside to really feel it.
No, that's cool. So look, I knew this would happen. I just realized that it's almost at our hour here, Andrew.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. This is, like I said, next time we could have beers, maybe golf. I don't know if do you golf, JT?
I swung a club, but I actually haven't done it in 5 years.
Wow. I golfed on Friday and it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I've been known to swing and swear quite often. So yeah, I can,
the old whack. Yeah, I get you. I don't want to see that word on here. Andrew, you're friggin' awesome. I really appreciate having you on here. What would you tell people right now that are looking in the market?
Okay. If you're looking at the market, don't be pressured, don't be bullied, but be educated. Have an advisor, someone you trust, someone you like. Make sure
not your Uncle Joe.
No, well, and dare I say it, not your Uncle Joe. How about not your parents? One of the rules that I definitely have with people is, if you have an outside influencer, let's take mom and dad, helping you decide to pick the house, or let's look from the flip side, or a child who is anywhere from the ages of 5 to 15, and they're influencing your decision, bring them. They are not allowed to have input on the home you end up with unless they're involved in the process. So, you got to have people who are going through it the same way, and you're getting educated and know what your options are. So take your time, but honestly, there's the old adage, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait.
And wait. Yes.
Well,
awesome.
What was it? The best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I had a dime for every time I heard somebody say, I could have bought that place back in the 70s for a song. Yeah, but you didn't. Shut up about it. Andrew, how can people find you if they want to work with a damn good realtor in the GTA?
Thank you. Well, I mean, I'm pretty easy. I have a website that's pretty easy to remember and to find, and it's just, it's professionalrealestate.ca. So it's what you expect. And as I have a little bit of a slogan of sorts, but it is the service you expect. And
Cool.
you know,
I like
that's
that.
kind of it. We'll just go with that one. It's the service you expect. So
I like that.
Yeah.
JT, anything you want to say to wrap it up, buddy?
Well, just always a pleasure, Andrew. Thank you so much for being on here. And I'll just plug you because I mean I've worked with you. You are a friend, so I'll disclose that. But I've worked with you as well professionally, and I obviously know several real estate agents that I've met over the years. And just the way you operate, the way you work, you really help. You truly want what's best for your clients, which I so appreciate with your approach. You're not pushing people. You're really, hey, what's right for you? Let's work. Let's take the time to find what's right for you. So if anybody listening looking for a great realtor to work with, especially sort of I know you're sort of GTA Hamilton area and that kind of stretch.
Yeah.
Definitely talk to Andrew and at least have a conversation with you to find out, are you the right personality and the right person for them?
Yeah. No, thank you.
I would say 100% what you said, JT. I've had meals and coffees and all that sort with a million different realtors over the years, and I know we haven't had enough meals and enough coffees together, Andrew. But I will say that you're one of the few realtors I've ever sat with, and that when I was sitting with you, I was the only person that was there. You weren't checking your message every 2 seconds because somebody was beeping you. So I really appreciate that. It's not just time nowadays, but attention that truly matters.
Oh, sorry.
Wait a minute. Sorry, that's a visual joke. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you need to go to YouTube at Guide to the Grind to find that joke. But it was funny, I assure you. Anyhow, Andrew McAllistor, thank you so much. Professionalrealestate.ca. Did I get that right?
You got it. Perfect.
That's fantastic. That is easy to remember if I can remember it.
What do you expect?
Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure. I always enjoy talking to you, but especially here, understanding that the sky is not falling. Jonathan, always appreciate you because you are just the light of my life. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate that you made it all the way through. If you want to find out more about what we do, of course, you can go to guidetothegrind.com or amortgageplan.com, where you can find out more about our mortgage mastery course. And of course, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere that you get your podcast downloads. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening, and have a fantastic day.